Today, November 3rd, is the 50th anniversary of the loss of Canberra A84-231, callsign Magpie 91, in Vietnam in 1970. I'm joined by Chris Hudnut, the President of the RAAF, Vietnam Veterans Association, and a branch of the Air Force Association. Chris is also a board member of the Air Force Association in Victoria. As we recall the loss of the aircraft, the painstaking and unrelenting work carried out by many over many years to find and repatriate our crew members. Pilot Mike Herbert, Navigator Bob Carver. Chris, I gather we don't have a lot of information about the loss of the aircraft.
No, Max. The aircraft was carrying out a routine high-level radar-controlled bombing mission known as a combat sky spot mission over South Vietnam jungle, fairly close to the Laotian border. The weather was fine. The aircraft was flying above the range of anti-aircraft artillery, and there were no known North Vietnamese missile sites along the flight path. After the mission was complete, the aircraft headed back to Phan Rang, and the US radar operator complimented the crew on the successful mission, saying, "That was an excellent run, sir." Shortly after, the aircraft radar return vanished from the operator's screen. And despite numerous efforts by American and Australian aircraft over the next 3 days, no trace of the aircraft was found, and the flight crew were classified as missing in action.
When Australian forces left Vietnam, we left behind 6 of our comrades, 4 Army personnel and 2 Air Force crew members, the missing in action classification. The need to find and repatriate these comrades was deeply felt by all veterans, and none more so than Lieutenant Colonel Jim Burke and his Operation Aussie's Home. Staffed by a group of volunteers, they did the research, they did all the record checking, and they came up with where they believed our comrades were. Trips to Vietnam were very successful, and 4 Army personnel were located and repatriated to Australia. Only left 2. Eventually, following the initiative of Jim Burke, the government appointed Major Jack Thurger of the Army History Unit and Squadron Leader John Cottrell, Air Force, to review all the documentation and records in another attempt to see if we could find the location of the aircraft. The team went to Quang Nam province in Vietnam and spoke with the commanders, both North Vietnamese and Viet Cong, who had been in the area at the time. Vietnamese officials visited the local villages in this very dense jungle terrain, and they came back with a part from a crashed aircraft. Identification tag finally showed that it was the air position indicator from the Canberra.
And Max, this in turn led to the RAAF to create a larger team to visit the crash site in 2009 to confirm the wreckage and to recover the remains of Mike Herbert and Bob Carver. The search and recovery process was successful and was completed on the 21st of August 2009. The Vietnamese government assisted in the recovery process and expedited the repatriation of the crew, including a formal ceremony at Hanoi, as the 2 caskets, accompanied by an RAAF honour guard and the relatives of Mike and Bob, were reverently placed aboard the RAAF C-130 Hercules aircraft.
The C-130 arrived back at Richmond on the 31st of August 2009. A formal ramp ceremony with various dignitaries, senior RAAF staff, an honour guard and former members of 2 Squadron was conducted at RAF Base Richmond after the aircraft arrived. Chris, as that aircraft arrived, another ceremony was about to take place at the National Vietnam Veterans Association Museum at Phillip Island, where the final 2 bracelets representing the 2 missing in action crew members were held in safekeeping. The idea behind these bracelets originated in the US, and for all servicemen that were classified as prisoners of war or missing in action, a bracelet was made and engraved with the veteran's name and worn by a close relative until their status was determined or they returned home. Some Australian servicemen met the designers of these bracelets in the States, and they kindly made up 6 bracelets for our 6 missing in action servicemen. The bracelets were engraved with their name and enclosed in a silk-lined case. They were given to the National Vietnam Veterans Museum at Phillip Island for safekeeping. As our comrades were recovered, the 4 Army being the first, their bracelets were closed in moving ceremonies at Phillip Island. That left just 2 open bracelets remaining, one for Michael Herbert, one for Bob Carver.
And as you mentioned, Max, on that day, 31st of August 2009, a large group of Air Force and Army veterans and guests had gathered at the museum. And as the C-130 landed at Richmond, a long-awaited message from Richmond was sent to Wing Commander Nicola A. Meyer, who was then the president of the Vietnam Veterans branch of the Air Force Association, with the words, "Nick, the boys are home, you can close the bracelets." Nick in turn nodded to Gary Parker, who was then the president of the National Vietnam Veterans Museum, who then gave the command and instruction to Wing Commander Warren Manson and Squadron Leader Graham Henry, "The boys are home, close the bracelets." These officers both stepped forward and together closed the bracelets for the last 2 missing in action servicemen who had returned to Australia. I was there at the time and remember very well that the arrangements and the ceremony commemoration were very significant and very moving.
Both Michael Herbert and Robert Carver were farewelled at funerals in their home cities of Adelaide and Toowoomba after their return. Today, we remember and reflect on the sacrifice of these 2 24-year-old 2 Squadron crew members. Lest we forget.